Oh, hi, it's Susie from Esoteric Trading Solutions. I hope you're all well, and I hope you're living your life according to the way you want to. Life is really short, so just live it how you want to live it. Just one ICO that caught my attention. There are a lot of ICOs coming to the market this month, but one that did catch my attention, which I like very much. I think it's a really interesting ICO, and it's going to be amazing if it gets up and running. Is Neuromation. It did catch my attention because of what they're trying to do, and I just thought I'd just basically do a presentation on it. It is difficult in parts, so I'm going to try and explain it as easily understood as possible, because it does talk about artificial intelligence and it talks about blockchain at the same time. So Neuromation is about artificial intelligence. When we talk about artificial intelligence, it's basically saying pretty much that you're teaching a computer to do certain tasks or recognize things in the same way that a human would do certain tasks or recognize things with natural intelligence. So I guess a computer has to be taught what to do. And Neuromation, what they are, they basically use huge data sets that go into a computer. This computer then converts those huge big data sets into numbers, and essentially then it becomes computer readable, if you want to call it that. And in creating all those computations and everything else, it causes a lot of CPU usage and a lot of computer grunt and also a lot of electricity. So it is expensive to do. And then the computer needs to read all that data in a datable mode that it can actually read. And then the training module needs to teach the computer how to do things and learn and how to read imagery and that sort of thing, so that basically the computer or the robot can be used in real workplace, real life problems and situations. So I guess that's very basic what Neuromation is. When you read their white paper, it seems to be with all this lingo, but pretty much that's what it is. So it uses artificial intelligence to create a computer process that can mimic a human process, and pretty much be able to do things that humans can do in real life situations, and that application can be applied to a lot of different things. So Neuromation uses synthetic data sets, and what it means by that is basically they can use things like animation to create other data sets and keep creating more and more data sets with animation, and they can create other types of computer text and more animation to allow the computer to read this data and then label this data so that the computer can actually learn what this data is about, and then train the computer to recognize a certain thing, a certain imagery, and to recognize a certain action, for example. In the past, Neuromation used to put in data from human beings, for example. So in the past, they would have used, rather than synthetic data, they would have used, say, for example, 150 items of photographs of someone, picking up an apple, and say picking up an apple and it happened to be a red apple, and then they'd have to label that data before it got put into the computer. Then it'd have to be put into the computer, and then the computer would have to basically put that into a mathematical computation, which would be its own digital language, and then basically the computer, then there would be a training learning module where the computer would learn with all that different imagery that someone was actually picking up a red apple or a green apple or what it might have been. The problem with in the past, when there was actually real data being put in from humans, and it might have been 3D photographs or 2D imagery or whatever it was, all that data had to be labelled and all that data had to be put in, and it took a long time. So say 150,000 items of data that had to be labelled and collected by humans would take almost 2 years. And obviously when you do have humans doing things, the data would be mislabeled or incorrectly labelled, like a green apple wasn't a green apple, it might have been a red apple or something like that, and then pretty much the computer couldn't understand that or read that. And then when you were trying to set a a learning module for the computer to learn, whether it was a red apple and it was actually a green one, then it just wouldn't make sense. So now Neuromation use animated data for its network, and it makes them collecting data much easier because it's synthetic data where they can build upon that synthetic data in large data items, and basically they don't have to, they don't have this human error of mistakes, and pretty much the data is labelled more correctly. So collecting large databases of images and text sounds easy, but it's actually not. Traditionally, it has been a real challenge. It's been extremely costly, and it's taken a long time, and you've had to employ a large number of human beings to actually put the data in, and it's a very slow process and often very, very expensive. So obviously with synthetic data, which is made up data, if you want to call it that, animation type data, and you can build upon that data, it's made it a lot easier for Neuromation to do that. But in saying that, when you're talking about computer processing time, computer computations, mathematical processing, subtractions, multiplications, and those sort of things, it does take a lot of grunt work for a computer to do that. You need a lot of GPU, graphic processing unit power, and obviously it does cost a lot for electricity. So Neuromation would like to come out with a platform. They want to create a distributed platform to service all aspects of future synthetic data ecosystems. And this platform, they'd like to allow users to create a data set generate massive data sets, train deep learning models, and basically for everyone to have access to that platform where they use their own cryptocurrency called Neuro. Basically, the Neuromation would use Ethereum technology, and obviously to be compliant with Ethereum technology, but you would actually, trade on this platform with a Neuro pretty much on the platform, and basically people would swap big data sets and everything else. So, but the biggest problem with this, where the blockchain comes in, is without the blockchain, this would be pretty much impossible. So basically, as I said before blockchain, actually dealing with huge data sets was just a nightmare. It would take a long time to get huge data sets. You'd have to get people involved, and things were labelled, and it was just impossible because there'd be a lot of different mistakes. And also, you got incredible computational and multiplication, and GPU running time, which is extremely expensive, and basically just coding and everything is extremely expensive. And in some ways, this has actually delayed the growth of artificial intelligence. It's been a real problem because of the costs and the very large costs of running, graphic processing power and running just computer grunt, so to speak. So pretty much what they thought of doing, Neuromation, is basically using the services of miners. Now, miners, as you know, they mine Bitcoins and they mine Ethereum, and they have massive GPU, graphic processing unit power. They have massive computer power machines. They will have warehouses of computer graphics and imaging processing machines, and they are able to process very large data blocks together using massive amounts of computer computational power, and obviously which requires a lot of electricity. So miners have these machines, and they're able to solve really hard mathematical problems, or algorithms, which is basically math problems, because obviously they've got to solve algorithms or math problems, because the developers that actually make the coin will basically have an algorithm or a math problem that needs to be solved before the miner, obviously they're using the software before the miner can actually transact that coin and validate that coin. So that's why they need so much graphic processing unit capability and processing ability. So the problem is with, gosh, I keep forgetting how to pronounce their name. The problem with Neuromation is because they need so much computational power, and they need so much computer processing power, it's been very expensive for them to actually pay for that computer processing power. And they currently pay Amazon $4 per hour for that computer processing power through Amazon in the cloud. And basically that is just not cost efficient for them at all. It costs them a fortune. So what they've said is to the miners, we will pay you more than what you get from Bitcoin and Ethereum if you can do it for us, because we're being charged $4 per hour by Amazon. Currently, the miners get paid from Ethereum and Bitcoin around around $7 to $8 a day. And what Neuromation want to do is they want to pay them the miners more than $7 to $8 a day for their processing capability, for their graphic processing unit capability of the miners. Now, this is going to be very interesting because, as you know, the miners, there are 4 large miners that mine Bitcoin, and they're out of China. And it's making Bitcoin very much a centralized coin. Even though the technology is decentralized, it means that they're being controlled by 4 very large miners in China. And the problem is Bitcoin transactions are actually going up. And I think the other day I saw one of Bitcoin's transactions was past $4, which was getting fairly expensive. Now, the reality is if this firm decides to pay the miners more than what Bitcoin and Ethereum are paying to the miners, $7 to $8 a day, then the miners may go to this firm and basically decide, to go with them, which means that there's going to be real issues on the mining side for Bitcoin and Ethereum. And what's interesting about it as well is Neuromation is basically using Ethereum technology, but they're with this ICO, they're actually saying we're going to be in direct competition with Ethereum and Bitcoin for mining capability, for computer grunt capability. So I don't know how that's going to pan out. It's certainly going to be very bad in the future if that happens, because it means that there's going to be a lot of people chasing computer grunt, GPU capability that can, process and solve a lot of mathematical algorithms very quickly, as well as, reading imagery and all sorts of things. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that goes. Amazon Cloud basically charged them $4 an hour, which is very expensive. So basically, if Neuromation can pay less than the $4 an hour, but pay Bitcoin and Ethereum miners more, then they're hoping that the miners are going to switch to them rather than stay with Bitcoin and Ethereum. And it does seem to be the case that miners tend to go where the money is. So it's going to be very interesting to see. That certainly is a risk for this ICO, because if the miners don't go, they're relying on their whole program. The ICO, the miners will come and mine, give them that capability of using their computer grunt. So it's going to be very interesting indeed. So basically, as I said, they would be in direct competition. So miners will have the incentive to put their rigs on Neuromation software. A real problem for BTC and Ethereum, as I said, because if they get paid more, they'll just take up the Neuromation software, get rid of the BTC and the Ethereum software, and start giving their computer capability to Neuromation and start mining their own token. Neuromation, as I said, needs a lot of data, which requires very high computer power for labeling, classifying information, filling up the nodes with data, which is then transformed to the information for the computer to read. And then there's a training module that starts to teach the computer. As you can appreciate, this takes an enormous amount of grunt and GPU, and this is pretty much why they want the miners, GPU, their computer capability. The applications for artificial intelligence are absolutely enormous, and if they get this off the ground, the application for artificial intelligence could be applied to anything. Making cars, computers making cars, robots, vacuuming, robots looking after people in hospitals with infectious disease that are so bad that no one can go near them, recognising cancer, recognising any sort of illness, going on building sites where it's dangerous for humans, asbestosis, fire, anything, cleaning windows outside, on 50 flights, 50 floors up, elevation, whatever. I mean, the applications are just mind-boggling to what can be applied from artificial intelligence, particularly. Also, the platform that they've got, I mean, there's a lot of scientists that have this problem where they have huge databases, and the computational time and expense is just unbelievable. So it is something that the whole world could use, and basically it would be a game changer. When you look at the team is pretty amazing. They've all got computer tech wizardry. They're all IT. They're all deep learning algorithms, Google imagery. This is the advisor, Andrew Rabinovich. Excuse me, he's been advisor for Google imagery. The partners have actually got money in the business as well. There's mathematicians here. There's people that are experts in creating synthetic data, research people that can basically implement hypotheses and put them into deep learning applications. There's other technical wizards. Dennis Popov is going to be hiring more software developers all around the world. He's got money in the game as well. As I said, the risks of this ICO are people don't understand the ICO and it doesn't get its funding, or the miners don't give them this their graphic processing unit power, which is what they require for their huge data sets and for the network. And also, maybe the competition for, processing cost goes up even higher than Amazon's $4 per hour as well. It is pretty reliant on the miners switching to them and also basically giving them that capability to run the platform. The opportunities are set up pretty enormous. This AI, artificial intelligence, could be applied to anything. It's pretty revolutionary, I've got to say, and it could be applied to any sort of revolutionary application in dangerous situations, pretty much anything. If we look at the roadmap, basically they received their funds the first quarter of 2018. They launched the platform 2018 second quarter. It's pretty tight, actually, the roadmap. It's not a long-winded thing. Q3 2018, they migrate to their own blockchain. Now, that doesn't surprise me, because at the moment, if they got this up and running, they'd be in direct competition with Ethereum and Bitcoin for the miners. So that's going to put them in direct conflict with Ethereum, even though they're initially using their technology. It doesn't surprise me they're going to migrate to their own technology, because they certainly have the people to do it. But in saying that, I've got to say it is a pretty unique project or an ICO, and in many ways this is a game changer, and it could certainly change the world in many ways. And I guess Stephen, what's his name? The scientist basically said if this gets up and running, it could basically change the world just in terms of the way things are done, the work environment and everything else. Stephen Hawkinson, the guy in the wheelchair, basically said that artificial intelligence would be bad for humankind, because again, basically a lot of people would lose their jobs because basically robots would take over. Again, I think that's probably the bigger picture. But the conditions of the ICO is there's a hard cap of 200,000 Ethereum, which is 60 million. It was 100 mil, but they've decided to cut it back to 60 mil. The token's going to be in euro. The capital needed is only 17 mil. Basically, unused tokens are going to be burnt. The price is 0.001 by the Ethereum price. So if Ethereum's at 298, you're looking at 0.298 cents US. If you get an early pre-sale before the 28th of November, there's 25% bonus. Check out the whitelist. Again, they're using Ethereum technology. It starts on the 28th of November and runs for 4 weeks. There's bonuses of 15% in week 1, week 2, 10%, and week 3, 5%. Over the next 3 years, they've said they will burn 60% of the total supply of the coin, which is interesting. So 2018, 30%, 2019, 20%, and in 2020, 10%. And the country these people come from is Estonia. So I hope that helps. There is a lot there, but if they can get the mining capability and also the basically the processing capability from the miners, and they can do the platform, then this will be a very, very interesting project. Thank you for listening, and I hope this helps. Thank you.